Hey, it's Dr. Cody Rahl with Tech for Psych. I'm your guide to the 2019 Psychiatry Innovation Lab in San Francisco at the American Psychiatric Association Annual meeting. Every year, entrepreneurs across the world apply through YouTube videos for a chance to compete in this Shark Tank-style pitch event called the Psychiatry Innovation Lab. Here you will learn from finalists that are solving some of mental health's grandest challenges through their innovative ideas and companies. Watch as they pitch to our all-star panel of judges, receive feedback, and work with the audience to sharpen their entrepreneurial skills. This is the first in a two-part series that captured the whole event in San Francisco. Here's your host, Dr. Nina Boston, founder of Psychiatry Innovation Lab and director of Stanford Brainstorm. Thanks to our sponsors, Anova Telepsychiatry, Pear Therapeutics, Takeda, and Otsuka America Pharmaceutical.
We're thrilled to welcome you here on behalf of the Innovation Committee, and we have 7 finalists who are going to be sharing with you amazing ideas about innovation. I'm Nina Boston, the chair of the Innovation Committee and founder of the Psychiatry Innovation Lab. I'm from Stanford Brainstorm, the laboratory for brain health innovation entrepreneurship, and I'm really thrilled to welcome you here today on behalf of the American Psychiatric Association. Thank you. So why are we here today? There are 2 billion people around the world struggling with brain and behavioral health disorders, and mental health has hit a crisis state. We don't have time to wait till tomorrow. We need to be thinking actively today about what we can do to help deliver better solutions all around the world. Alpha Stewart, our current president of the American Psychiatric Association, has set diversity as her key initiative for how she wants to bring about change in the mental health community. And it's really fitting to think about diversity here today, because diversity of thought is the first thing that we're doing here in order to bring about change, focusing on a multidisciplinary perspective and bringing people together from all different disciplines in order to bring change to mental health and think about new ideas and new solutions for our patients and for the patients who we never even see. When thinking about diversity, that's a great example of the finalists who you're going to see here today. We have people from all different backgrounds who are pitching ideas. We have psychiatry residents, we have a public policy student, we have moms, we have kids, we have people from everywhere. We even have international finalists, someone who came all the way from Australia to share their idea today. We also have diversity in terms of the problems that people are solving, starting with drug overdoses. Because of opioids, drug overdoses are now the #1 leading cause of death for American adults. That's the first problem being tackled today. But we have other problems. We have physician burnout, one of the leading issues being discussed here at the annual meeting, all the way through emotional resiliency, things that we talk about for kids, a diversity of topics that are being addressed. So these are the issues that you're going to see today, and being able to have all of you engage in this discussion is really what's going to help improve these ideas throughout the day. So I want to just talk a little bit so you understand how we got here. I mentioned that this is the 5th Psychiatry Innovation Lab. We started 5 years ago in Atlanta in a tiny concrete room over round little rickety tables, and every year this event has grown and grown in size, in scope, in quality of ideas, and now you have this beautiful display with amazing people that you have here today. And I think it's a really huge testament to the commitment to innovation, the commitment to mental health, and really the sense that we have as a society around the importance of addressing mental health innovation. So thank you for being here, thank you for understanding what an important problem this is, and thank you for your commitment to being here and working together to make this better. Let me tell you a little bit about the process that brought us here today. A few months ago, the APA put out a call to get the best ideas of what are people thinking about that can bring about change in mental health. And we had submissions from 5 countries all around the world of what people wanted to do. The APA's Committee on Innovation judged those ideas and helped choose the 7 finalists who you'll see here today. Can we get some of those judges are actually here. Dr. Neha Chowdhury, wave your hand. Dr. Harris Iyer, wave your hand. So they're two of our committee members, and we had some more as well. And so they helped choose the 7 finalists here today. We also scoured the country to find the people who we call innovation leaders. These are folks who are committed to mental health and coming from all different backgrounds, from different parts of medicine, business, policy, investing, and working in industry, academia, government, and we identified them as innovation leaders. Can I ask the innovation leaders to please stand and raise your hand? Thank you. So what happened is that the innovation leaders then got paired up with the finalists so that each finalist got to work with innovation leaders over the course of the past month. And they got to work together where the innovation leaders got to share and help the finalists improve their business plan, improve their pitch, and really create a mentorship relationship so that now what you get to see here today is the combination of these folks working together. So that's how we came here today. What then are we going to do today? Let's talk about the schedule of events. So we'll put this up. So after you learn about our esteemed panel of judges, we're going to get into our Shark Tank style pitches. So each of the 7 finalists are going to come onto stage. They're going to have 5 minutes to give their pitch. And we have a timer here. Finalists, I know I smile a lot, but I am very mean. I will cut you off, okay? So don't go like 501. I will cut you off in 5 minutes. So you'll have 5 minutes to give your pitch. The finalists have been working on this with the innovation leaders, as you know. And then after those 5 minutes, our judging panel will be asking you questions, and you'll have the 5 minutes to respond to the judges around their questions. Now, audience members, there are 2 really important values that I think are, that this event is all about. The first is learning. The second is community. The learning part is what I want to talk about right now. As the judges are sharing their feedback, this is a really awesome opportunity for you to learn about how the judges are thinking. What are they, how are they evaluating these companies? Maybe you want to start a company yourself. Maybe you've had an idea, but you haven't taken that step. Or maybe you're thinking about, what do I want to be recommending to my patients? What do I want to be recommending to my kids? Really try to understand the mindset of the judges as they're asking these questions, and then also how the finalists themselves are responding. This is a great opportunity for you to get that insight. But then here's the next part. So after we have 5 minutes for the judges to give their questions and feedback, we have time for audience questions. So I'm going to use this opportunity to talk about sync. Okay. So if you look at your table, there's a sign that says to sign up for sync. So usually, when you enter something, they say put away your phones, put away your laptops. Here we're going to do the exact opposite. So right now I want everyone to take out your phone, take out your tablet, take out your laptop, and I want you to go to sync.freeman.com/MHIZ. That stands for Mental Health Innovation Zone. This is an interactive session. You are going to be sending us your questions, your feedback. You're going to be voting on an award, which I'll tell you about in just a minute. So while the finalists are pitching, you are going to be sending us your questions. I want you to be thinking about this because after the judges give their questions, Dr. Chowdhury and Dr. Iyer are going to be here choosing questions, and so the audience members are then going to be answering your questions. So, I'll take a minute again right now. sync.freeman.com/MHIZ. So think about the questions you want to be asking and type them away over the 5 minutes while the finalists are pitching. So then we have audience questions, and then we repeat. We have 7 finalists. Okay, pause there. After all the finalists have pitched, then we have my actual favorite part, I would say, of the entire event. And I think this is actually what makes this event different from other, what might be like traditional pitch competitions. The APA is really committed to focusing on education and making this an interactive learning experience for APA members. So this is a unique event where you actually get to work directly with the finalists and the innovation leaders. We have these numbered tables all around. You get to choose which team you want to work with. And over the course of the hour, you get to work directly with them and listen to what the judges have said and incorporate that feedback to think about how then you want to get better. You want to improve the business plan. You want to change your pitch. You want to maybe think about a different audience to work with or a different market to target. So this is a really, really unique opportunity to really just get hands-on and understand the inside workings of a founder's mind, a CEO's mind, and it's going to be fascinating. So the other thing that you need to be doing as you're listening to these pitches is thinking about who you want to work with during this time. And so really think about, what do I have to offer? What am I interested in? And then you get to work directly with them. After the team time, we will then have the finalists come back and give their final pitch. They're going to have 2 minutes to give a final pitch. And after that 2 minutes, the big audience vote happens. So you're going to get to vote on them on a scale of 1 to 100. And after that, then the judges will share their final feedback, and then we'll be done. After that, we're going to have a fantastic presentation from our sponsors, Otsuka Pharmaceutical America Incorporated. And then we're going to have the presentation of awards. We have 4 awards that we're going to be presenting. Our Alumni Award, an Impact Award that's going to be judged by the Innovation Leaders, the Audience Choice Award, and finally, the Grand Prize Award, which is a $10,000 cash award thanks to our sponsors, Otsuka America Pharmaceutical Incorporated. That is our schedule of events. Any questions? Good. Before we turn it over to our fantastic judges, we really want to get the word out. And so I want to ask, 1, to take pictures, 2, to tweet. The hashtag is #MHIZ for Mental Health Innovation Zone. Share your ideas, get it out there, tell us what you're thinking, and we really want to be responding. So as I said, you're going to be at your computers. We definitely welcome that. And in terms of taking pictures, we have a website, psychiatry.org/innovation. We really welcome you to write blog posts. And after this event, we will be welcoming you to share your experience, what it was like to be in the audience and participate in this event. And you'll also be seeing posts from our finalists and innovation leaders in the coming weeks and months. Okay, so, final thing. I said there are 2 values, right? I said the first one was education. The second one is community. The most important thing I think about today is that we all really want to get together and build a community around mental health innovation. We are at the beginning of a very, very exciting time in this field. These are the early days of a new field, and we want to set the precedent for what this is about. And that's about us coming together with shared values around collaboration. And so what I want you to be able to do today is meet someone and find a partner, find a friend, someone who you realize is a academic partner who you can work with and think through things with, and to be able to leave here with someone like that, I think would be a really great goal. So definitely, talk to everyone while you're here, and leave with someone who you can follow up with. That would be fantastic. Okay, let's turn it over to. Okay, so we have our fabulous judges, and this was actually a dream come true. When we put together a list of our dream judges and emailed them, and I honestly didn't think many of them would respond, and they did, and they said yes, and we were just blown away. And so I have to say a huge thank you to all of you for coming. And so I'm going to ask if the judges can please stand and introduce themselves. Tell us about yourself and what mental health innovation means to you, and we would love to really just understand yourself and your insights.
Hi, I'm Scott Cousineau. I'm the CEO of a company called MyStrength. We're now a completely owned subsidiary of Livongo. We started MyStrength about 9 years ago, kind of a convergence of forces. I was a technology executive. I led a 600-person organization, and one year we were looking at our health care costs, and we were seeing significant representation of mental health. And we invited our insurer to come back and showcase what we thought would be a plethora of interactive self-management tools in the behavioral health space. Unfortunately, we found quite the opposite. We found a video and 2 static articles being labeled as an innovative, interactive platform. And so the other influence was 25 years ago. I struggled with depression and ultimately was able to seek out a therapist, had a life-changing outcome. And so I knew I wasn't seeing all of the untold cost. So with a partner, Matt Sopich, and we decided to leave what we were doing to start My Strength. We seeded the company ourselves. We then took on individual investors, ultimately institutional investors, raising several $1 million. The basic platform is we cover a range of behavioral health conditions: anxiety, stress, depression, chronic pain, substance use disorder, insomnia. We've been incredibly fortunate. We've scaled to a pretty sizable level. We work with over 150 of the largest health plans. Thank you, Hyun, from Aetna. Some of the largest health systems in the country who've integrated us in as a treatment extender. We work in the Medicaid space, thank you, Jonathan, over 33 states where we're working with Medicaid-funded providers. I am thrilled to be here. I have a lot of battle scars of taking a company from literally a napkin to ultimately an exit, if you will. We were acquired by Livongo. The vision, Livongo is a leader in chronic physical health. And the company has an incredible vision to combine what we think the best of mental health and physical health to truly create an integrated digital, behavioral, and mental health, physical health platform. So we're excited now to be part of Livongo and head to our next chapter. So thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is David Feinberg. I'm a child psychiatrist and adult psychiatrist. For 25 years, I was at UCLA, and the last 6 or 7 there was the chief executive of the UCLA health system. 4 years ago, I went to run the Geisinger Health System in Pennsylvania, and 4 months ago, joined Google to head up all their healthcare efforts. So Google, we have this thing called Google.com that gets many billion searches a day. About 7% of them are healthcare related. We have a lot of products in the home to keep people healthy. And our machine learning artificial intelligence can look at scans like the back of your eye, your skin, chest CTs, and perform better than humans. So we're excited to bring those tools to all the caregivers that are taking care of people. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bambi Francisco Roizen, and I started off my career as a journalist and covering innovation and technology. About 10 years ago, I launched my own company called Vader. It was Vader TV because my background is television. But actually, we sit at the intersection of media and finance. So I'm sort of an entrepreneur turned journalist turned entrepreneur turned investor. So we're investing in some companies, early stage companies. About 4 or 5 years ago, I got really interested in digital health, but my passion in mental health goes back to has anybody ever heard that book Prozac Nation? Back in the 90s. So very fascinated, had a number of relatives who suffered from mental health problems. I today am the mother of 4 boys who are tech immersed, self-absorbed, like all the other children out there, I'm sorry to say, but it scares me to think of a world where they're trying to figure out sort of how to deal with their emotional well-being. And so I'm also struck and concerned with the rise in long-term psychiatric care, largely due to sort of the opioid and psychotropic crisis. And so I'm looking for digital therapeutics, software, medical devices that can really change our behavior and address mental health in a sort of non-invasive way. We're seeing lots of that with companies like Livongo now, and so I'm happy, grateful to be here. Thank you for having me, and looking forward to meeting all the entrepreneurs.
And I'll add that Vader has been very generous in hosting some Innovation Lab content, and we look forward to working with you on that. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Solomay Tibabu. I'm based here in San Francisco and have been involved with behavioral health, tech, and innovation for a while now. In 2006, I started anxietyinteens.com after being a very anxious teen and not being able to find anything online. And that was really the beginning of my career in behavioral health, technology, and innovation. Since then, I had my own mental health tech startup for a few years, have supported other healthcare startups, was at NetSmart Behavioral Health EHR for several years, and now with Launchpad Digital Health, which is the most active early stage venture capital firm in digital health. And so we focus on seed to Series B stage digital health startups, broadly speaking digital health, but certainly behavioral health is a big focus for us.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Debbie Profit, and I'm the Vice President of Applied Innovation and Process Improvement at Otsuka. My background actually is in community mental health nursing. Started there about a long time ago, 30 years or so ago. I've been in industry for about 25 years. I applaud APA and the Innovation Lab for the work that they're doing and their commitment, as well as our commitment and the alignment around innovation and creative solutioning to help patients. We've got a long way to go. Great progress has been made, and we continue to be excited about being a sponsor of this event. And I really, really look forward, one, to hearing from the judges today, but more so hearing from the individuals who are going to present to this audience in the interactive event that's going to occur. So thank you to everybody for coming out, and let's have a really good time this afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Dennis Boyle. I'm one of the leaders of the Design for Health practice at IDEO out of our San Francisco office. My background is engineering and industrial design. We've worked in the health sector for many years, experienced design in hospitals and clinics, and a great deal of digital health, digital therapeutics these days, all the way to medical product design. I teach a class at Stanford in the D School called Design for Healthy Behaviors that touches on quite a bit of mental health as people try to manage chronic conditions and using design process to make lives better. So it's an honor to be here. Thank you, Nina, for the invitation.
So before we get started, there are really a few, one group that needs to be called out on making today possible, and that is Otsuka. I mentioned that this started as a very small, event, and now has grown into what you see it is today. And that is because of Otsuka's enormous contribution to making this a sustainable part of the American Psychiatric Association. We can't thank them enough for their vision and their leadership and their commitment to innovation. And so we'd like to ask them to come up and just say a few words. And as you'll hear from them later on at the end, but I think we really need to acknowledge just the huge contribution that they've made to everything and the Psychiatry Innovation Lab.
So I'm not sure I have too much more to add, other than to say that, again, this is an opportunity for us to think differently, act differently, behave differently in the future. That's a commitment of Otsuka's to the community mental health audience that we support and hopefully enable every single day. So for us at Otsuka, our company is nearly 100 years old, and much of that time has been spent in this space. We will continue to commit to this in the future, where other companies and industry have shifted away and moved out of mental health. We have dug in deep, and as you heard earlier from John Knights, one of my colleagues, the vision and growth of putting solutions together with medicine is really probably the future for all of us. So again, Nina, I thank you and the APA team for continuing to invite us back, and really look forward to what we have to bring. So thank you.
Are you ready? Oh, wait, one more person. Can you come to stage, Cody Rahl? So Cody Rahl was a finalist in our very first Innovation Lab, which tells you just what this is, to the point of this being a community. He was a finalist, and now actually Cody is the founder of a YouTube channel called Tech for Psych, and he has been filming the Innovation Lab now since he was a finalist. And so you see his camera right there. Not only is Cody filming this entire event, so you will be seeing it on YouTube. You can see past Innovation Labs on YouTube and through Tech for Psych and on the APA's website. He's going to be doing interviews with the finalists and hopefully getting to talk to some of our judges as well. So this is the guy who makes this an event that you not only see today, but basically for the rest of humanity. So thank you so much, Cody. Okay, let's begin. James Lott is a public policy graduate student at the University of Chicago. James considers negotiating to be one of his strongest skills. It's something that he picked up growing up one of 6 siblings. And now it's something that he brings into his professional work in policy and business. And when you think about what makes an ideal startup founder, negotiating is definitely something at the very top of that list. And James is so committed to negotiating that he actually brought it into the dating world when he asked a Tinder date to invest in his company. Now, that is commitment. I would invest in someone who's that committed. So swipe right on our first candidate, James.
Hi, I'm James. I'm a graduate student at the University of Chicago, and I'm also the founder and CEO of FidgetScript. We provide essential and life-saving medications online. Our first offering is Naloxone Exchange. It's an online platform and the first online marketplace where anyone can purchase the life-saving opioid antidote naloxone, receive effective training on how to use it, and have it shipped straight to their door. With Naloxone Exchange, any stigma and any access barriers are now eliminated. So anyone, anywhere truly can get the life-saving medication that they deserve. Yeah, and I'm really excited to be at APA today because there's some gaps in our model. You know, we're giving naloxone, but what else can we offer people? And I'm looking towards partnering with psychiatrists and some other innovators in the space to figure out how else we can best help our patients and their loved ones find, sustainable treatment they want and need.
Awesome. Thank you for that very warm introduction, Nina, and I will go ahead and get started. Hello, friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. I do come from the University of Chicago. Just a little bit about my background. I am a pharmacist and a graduate student at the University of Chicago. I'm the founder and CEO of FidgetScript, and we provide essential and life-saving medications online. So the opioid crisis, we've all heard about it for the past several years. Last year, the data that recently came out mentioned that about 72,000 lives were lost, and it's now the #1 cause of accidental death in the United States, and that's super unfortunate. What we did was we knew that this was a problem. We also, as a pharmacist, I can tell you that stigma is a major barrier to accessing this and other treatments. So we wanted to validate that, and we took a national survey of over 500 responders. This is an actual respondent. We're going to just call them Respondent X. This person's from South Carolina. They admit to using heroin and misusing heroin and prescription opioids. And they say also themselves, their family, and their loved ones are all also burdened by the crises. So what we found out in our data was that over about 60% of these people said that they do not feel comfortable talking to a doctor or pharmacist about their substance use disorder. And the data mostly just shows that if it were an option, they would prefer to get their naloxone online as opposed to going to a pharmacy or a physician. And that's where this kind of all starts. So our intervention, and I'll bring out the star of the show, is Naloxone Exchange. Naloxone Exchange is an online marketplace where anyone can purchase a life-saving opioid antidote naloxone, receive effective training on how to use it, and have it shipped straight to their door. Sorry, I'm juggling here, folks. So it's very simple. Anybody can go to naloxoneexchange.com, click on Get Naloxone. They then pick the version of naloxone that's right for them and that they can afford. And then our pharmacy partners essentially ships it right to their door. Anyone can purchase this, whether it's loved ones or the user themselves. So with this, we basically grant easy access and a stigma-free experience, which is very important. And we asked ourselves, how can digital technology provide patients and loved ones with the care that they want and that they need? The media has done a pretty good job reporting the problem. There was a study that showed that 1 out of 4 pharmacies either knew what naloxone was or had naloxone on hand when patients went to the pharmacy. And that's intolerable because personally, as I do this every day, I've heard stories of patients driving 200 to 300 miles to get naloxone, and some buy it off the black market because they can't get it. So we know this is intolerable. So our online platform is it's on an AWS or Amazon Web Services backing, and it's HIPAA compliant, completely safe and secure. Our pharmacy partners are medical professionals who are experts in naloxone therapy, and we are also .pharmacy certified, which means that we've been vetted as a safe and effective online service, and we can basically advertise on Google and accept payments online, which is pretty difficult. More importantly, and I'm very happy to announce today, we actually launched in Texas this week. So anyone in the state of Texas can go ahead and purchase naloxone online. And in a couple months, we will have 24 more states, and our goal is to have all 50 states on board by the end of the year. So these are some of our backing companies, or folks who backed us so far. And we'd just like to say thank you to them, including Stanford Brainstorm. And with that, I'll take any questions.
I'll jump in real quick. James, great job. And you're tackling, obviously, how do you build the moat? And what's kind of unique IP or some of the uniqueness to your company that you think will help to delineate you from what I would imagine would be a growing competitive landscape?
Yeah, terrific question. So the regulatory barriers to provide direct-to-consumer healthcare, which is basically where you provide the drug directly to the patient, and you put all the things on the platform that needs to be there to get to do this legally and safely, it's super challenging. I would say that there's only a couple hundred people in the United States who could probably do that feasibly. Luckily, I used to teach pharmacy law, so I'm pretty good at that. Also, the technology is fairly straightforward. It's mostly things that you need to protect on the security side. But the secret sauce is kind of moving really quickly, finding other markets to expand to, and then just kind of going that and building upon that. Also, it's probably important for me to mention that we are a public benefit corporation, so we try to maximize our potential to society and providing essential and life-saving medications rather than profits first.
Hey, James, can I ask a question? Great presentation, and I'm glad we're supporting it from Google. There's certain states where the public health officer has given everybody a naloxone prescription, right? I know Pennsylvania's done it and some others. And I would imagine some payers or integrated delivery systems would give it away for free because it's just going to save money. So back to this question, if it becomes free, what happens to your business?
Yeah, it's a great question. It is already free in some areas. However, this is not the bread and butter of our business. We go after problems. That's what our company does. We go after big problems in healthcare, and primarily providing, the final resource to the patient and figuring out all of the logistics. We're already targeting future drugs. We want to make sure we do this right first because this is what our nation really needs. So we're really big on making sure we're solving tough problems. But some of the drugs that we're going to be looking after in the future, they also have high regulatory burdens, or they have a high need, and I think that'll be mostly impactful. And I don't think these drugs are being free anytime soon. So. Thank you.
A quick reminder to the audience to please be submitting questions. Thank you.
So James, do you think that your audience will be self-pay, or do you believe it'll actually be payers?
Great question. Right now, to be frank, it's kind of unclear. Right now, we are only accepting cash. For the record, all the pharmaceutical companies that make naloxone have reached out to us. It's kind of more, a negotiation that needs to take place because I'm sure that the drug companies want to get this to the patients as much as we do. So that's kind of one thing. We would have to figure out that payer relationship though, because it's a little complicated. Right now we're taking cash paying patients. but we really do hope, I think once we have access to 25 to 50 states, I think that the payers and the pharma companies will be more willing to try to work out something.
And I just want to comment, that stigma piece is so incredibly important, that you're trying to conquer that, because people don't want to walk into pharmacies, they don't want to walk into their doctor's office, they don't want to tell their family members. So that you're targeting that, and as we as a community of mental health providers need to be thinking about that. So kudos to you.
Thank you so much. And I just really want to quickly say, anybody who thinks it's not difficult to get naloxone, we were fortunate we got to present at the FDA back in December for the Naloxone Day, and I went to the pharmacy to purchase Narcan. It was a really terrible experience, unfortunately. I love pharmacists because I am one, but the pharmacist didn't know anything about the standing order, which is when the pharmacy can write prescriptions on demand. They didn't know what Narcan was, and they told me it wasn't capable. If I didn't know so much, I would have just walked out of the pharmacy, and that's not good for patient care. So,
James, very ambitious goals of being available in 50 states this year. How are you getting the word out to make that happen, or what's the kind of the market approach?
Yeah, great question. The media helps us out quite a bit. Right now in Texas, I think I've done 4 interviews in like the past week. The Dallas Morning Star helps out. There's some other big media channels who are willing to help us get out the word. Next is going to be word of mouth. That's pretty important, and we're also doing a marketing strategy on Google, where we're basically anybody type in naloxone, we come up right away if we're available in your state.
Okay, let's get to audience questions. How would you mitigate the loss of patient-clinician contact and monitoring that may result from direct-to-consumer marketing?
Great question. Thank you for that. I would say that some of the folks that use our platform, I don't know what the technical term for this, but right now they are likely not a part of the medical system in the traditional state sense. And we have to kind of factor, risk versus benefit. We know right now that we're targeting people who are susceptible to overdose, either their loved ones or them as individuals. I think that we do need to think more about how we're going to further engage with them. And it's something we have gotten thought on, but we kind of got to do the first thing right first, and that's making sure we're giving the best service and being able to execute in all 50 states. But very fair point, it's something that we should definitely think about.
Okay. Next. How long would it take to get delivered to the door?
Yeah, great question. Typically, it's going to be 3 to 5 business days, and we're going to try to optimize on that to make it even quicker. And if you go on the site, which I encourage you all to, naloxoneexchange.com, when you first get on there, there is a banner, and it asks you if you are in crisis at the moment, because actually Dr. Hassan told us that some people might be going to the site while they were overdosing, and we don't want that. So it tells them to contact 911 or a suicide hotline.
Thank you for that. Next question. Are there plans to link access to local care for opioid use disorder to this marketplace?
Again, something that we are thinking about. I think that, one thing about naloxone is it is a life-saving drug, and whether you're 10 years in recovery or if you just overdosed yesterday, it's kind of the gateway to a lot of potential for care. So we would love to do that, but then it's also kind of complicated because right now for marketing campaigns on Google or whatnot, there's certain addiction centers and whatnot, they have to get special credentials to advertise, because some addiction centers and other facilities, they've been bad players, and we want to be responsible about that. We don't want to be in the news for anything that we didn't for unintended consequences.
Wonderful. Thank you, James. Fantastic. So I'm going to do 2 reminders. First, for the finalists, when the finalist before you is entering the audience question phase, please go ahead and come up right here to the stage, and you can, that way you have 2 minutes before you're going to start. And then to everyone, to please sign up on sync.freeman.com/MHIZ. Through that, you'll be able to submit questions, your own questions, and after the judges give their questions, we'll be able to put your questions on stage. So next, we have Rall. Ariella Safira was studying math at Stanford when she started to get involved in mental health innovation. Inspired by the work of one of our judges, Dennis Boyle, she started to get involved in design thinking by working at Stanford's design school and IDEO. And there she worked on how to redesign psychiatric facilities. Ariella met Rachel Lynn at CityBlock, an offshoot of Google's Sidewalk Labs that's committed to building technology to help the lowest income Americans. Ariella and Rachel bonded over 3 things and a shared love of these 3 things. The first was food. Ariella used to bake and sell wedding cakes, and Rachel had helped launch Uber Eats and Uber China. Comedy. Ariella once started for Jerry Seinfeld in stand-up, and Rachel's dream job is to be a comedy writer. And finally, mental health. In fact, they bonded so much over mental health that they both quit their jobs at CityBlock to start Rall. Ariella and Rachel.
Hi, I'm Ariella. And I'm Rachel. And we're creating Rall, a one-stop shop for women's mental health. We're redesigning mental health care from the ground up. We're redesigning the brick and mortar space that therapy and psychiatry is conducted in. We're building a brand around it. We're creating a care model to train therapists on women's needs. We're redesigning the pricing structure. And finally, we're building technology to improve ongoing care. And we're so excited to be here today at the APA to work with psychiatrists and psychologists on how we can actually make Rall real. Thanks. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Ariella.
And I'm Rachel.
And we're building Rall, a women's one-stop shop for mental health care.
The mental health clinic hasn't changed in 120 years. 1/3 of women who look for a mental health clinician fail to find one. And if you ever tried to find a mental health clinician, you can understand why. The process is confusing, daunting, and uncomfortable.
We're changing that. We're redesigning mental health care from the ground up. And this includes 5 key pillars. That's a slip up. 1, we're redesigning the physical space of the clinic. We're building a brand, we're building a care model, we're changing the pricing structure of therapy, and finally, we're building technology to improve ongoing care.
First, we're creating a space designed for women, not for therapy. We're taking inspiration from spaces that women already feel comfortable in, like the wing in their local coffee shop, instead of the hospital.
And we're building a brand. We envision a world, and we're going to build a world, where people are just as proud of going to therapy as they are going to the gym. In another world, the gym could have been a place that people only go to when they're unhealthy or when they've reached rock bottom physically. But beautiful gyms and great branding are what made the gym a place that everyone goes to regularly. Not just when they want to lose 40 pounds, but they go weekly in order to maintain their physical health. Great branding is the reason why the Equinox keychain is something people are proud of. We are going to create a brand such that the Rall keychain is something someone is just as proud of as they are an Equinox one.
The Rall care model. We've interviewed countless individuals about their therapy experience and have heard some therapy horror stories from therapists that have questioned whether women were to blame for their sexual assault, to therapists who told women that they couldn't have kids after 30, to therapists who just didn't understand modern dating and issues like ghosting. What we're doing to change that is training therapists on modern day millennial women's issues so that they are equipped with the know-how of how to be able to effectively handle these issues.
And we're not just providing emotional support to women, but we're providing tangible resources to assure that we're solving for their uncertainties. We see Rall as the women's life coordinator. On one hand, we're providing in-house amenities like access to psychiatry and access to yoga classes to maintain their wellness. But we're also providing referrals to resources like Kindbody and Modern Fertility to assure we're solving for problems.
And we're giving women access to control and convenience of their therapy care through the Rall app. Women can schedule their therapy appointments and track their progress all in one place. Women can also track their medication, their sleep, their exercise, and see how that correlates with their depression and anxiety.
And we're changing the pricing structure of therapy. Instead of having people pay per visit, we're having members pay monthly membership fees over the course of a year. That way, members have a structure and timeline to therapy, which user research has showed us women want, and also therapists have a timeline to strategically plan a therapy journey.
Reel makes mental wellness into an everyday experience. This is an example Reel therapy package, where a woman walks into Reel, she's matched with a therapist and given a therapy package, say 10 sessions over 3 months, and then she has access to the space and amenities like yoga and meditation all year round. And on top of that, if she ever wants to restart therapy again, she can do so. And lastly, even if she's in a crisis, there are walk-in appointments, same-day walk-in appointments. So Reel is there to support her whenever she needs it.
All in one, Reel will exude the luxury and aspiration of an Equinox while maintaining the inclusivity and comfort of one's local coffee shop.
So what does this mean for clinicians? We've talked to countless therapists, and one of the main pain points that they face is around the back office administration, from running marketing and user acquisition to dealing with insurance and billing. We're taking that off therapists' plates so that they can focus on what they do best, which is providing great care.
And we're improving clinical care for psychiatrists. Reel gives psychiatrists visibility into how their patients are doing and responding to medications regularly. So they don't have to wait for a patient to come into their appointment to see how they respond to medication, and instead they can more quickly respond to patients who respond poorly to meds.
And so
looking for the hook. Well, congratulations, first of all. Great presentation, and it sounds like you both are a great team together. I love this space. I've always been saying that I should be able to go to my gym and see my doctor, and by the way, get some points taken off for going to the gym and staying healthy. It's an ambitious, vertically integrated approach that you have. So I have a couple of questions. Why women? And as I heard your services and your thinking about what you're going to offer, it seemed like you could offer this to men. So that's the first question: why women, and how is it differentiated for women? And then two, where do you start? You have a clinic. You already have pricing model, but where does it start? Do you have to get the clinic first, or are you going to have an app? Where's your first initial focus?
So apologies for going over on time. We were going to cover a few of those. So we do plan, our vision is for Reel to expand the male market as well. Our hypothesis is that we need to hyper-focus on a single user group in order to actually provide great care and have a well-designed space. And so the reason why we chose for women to be our first user group is because they make up the majority of therapy users today. But by Clinic 3, we see the clinic being for men. And your next point as to what is our next step. So this summer, we're launching a summer beta, and we're testing our actual care model on 5 to 10 women who are going to be going to therapy with our head of therapy. And what we'll be capturing is, 1, what does that 15-week program look like to them? And 2, at what point do they want technology to intervene with therapy? Whether it's the app texting them at the end of a session saying, how are you doing, or not.
One thing to add on to that, we're doing this out of our head of therapy office, so no actual capital expenditures are needed there.
You were just going to get started talking about the clinician sides of things. Talk more about that business model and how you'll attract them and retain them.
So we're hyper-targeting therapists who are 1 to 3 years out of their postdoc program. The reason for that is that age group is the age that our patients want, the age of therapists that our patients want. And on top of that, it takes on average 3 to 5 years for therapists after postdoc to start a private practice because of the capital needed to start a private practice and general intimidation surrounding it. And so really what we're competing against are hospital systems and school systems, which is where they end up. 2 points on that. 1, the salaries are very low, and 2, those are just not the jobs. What we're hearing is that these are not the jobs therapists want. And so this is actually the role they want, and it requires less capital for them to onboard.
Great presentation, guys. A couple things. As you've kind of modeled out the economic model, what are your thoughts in terms of acquisition costs as kind of point 1? And then point 2, maybe David can correct me, but I think the challenge is kind of the average number of therapy visits is pretty minimal, couple, I think. And if I heard you, you're looking for a year of commitment. And so I'm curious how those two can kind of come together, because at the end of the day, it's all going to drive your economic model.
For sure. Great questions. So for the first question, in terms of user acquisition, we're actually focusing on acquiring users through women's community groups. So places like partnering with the Wing, as well as focusing on women in tech. And so we believe that that's actually going to lower our cost of acquisition, because we're not actually focusing on paid marketing, which we're seeing increasing costs by purchasing Facebook ads. To the second point, in terms of, apologies, can you remind me of your second point?
You bet. It's just the 1-year commitment. Yes. Versus kind of the data that suggests that relationship tends to be a bit shorter. Do you think there's going to be friction there?
Yeah, so in terms of that 1-year commitment, we see that offering different packages of different lengths. So they're a real member where they can come and go to the yoga, go to meditation classes, but they can try it out and say, oh, I only want to go to therapy for, say, 10 sessions over 3 months. And we believe that actually if we're able to prove value there, that people will convert to actually having longer sessions.
Also, obviously we're doing a ton of user research, and most recently we launched a survey asking women to respond to these packages and commit to which they would choose. And we found about a third of, one option was choosing none. About a third of women chose the 3-month option, and the next biggest option chosen was the 6-month one, as opposed to 2 months is the most minimal, and obviously none was an option as well. So we've been validating this as best as we could and hearing that women are intrigued and excited once provided the option.
Thank you. Let's get to audience questions. Wonderful idea. Compliments are very, very much appreciated. Thank you, audience. How would privacy be managed in the Real Cafe?
So this is actually one of the key questions that we've been asking in our user surveys. And so we're combining the ideas of community as a core aspect of it. And actually one of the top things that women were asking for was this concept of community. But on that note of privacy, we do know that there are situations where people do want privacy. And so we're designing the space where there are privacy nooks and places where you can actually go. You don't have to be integrated into the main area. But in the future, we see that that it's so destigmatized that people can walk out and that it's normal to cry and it's okay to be who you are and feel bad and have negative emotions, because that's the real experience.
Thank you. It's easier to leverage off an existing habit than to create a new habit. Why not integrate your service into gyms that women already go to?
Great question. Something we are exploring is not to integrate into the gym, but to integrate Real into the Wing, since it already brings in pretty much only women.
And can you share a little bit about the Wing?
Yes. For those who don't know, the Wing is a co-working space for women. So think WeWork, but 1, it's physically designed differently. But 2, it has this community element where they have a speaker series and various offerings that make it more enticing for women seeking a co-working space. The idea is that we'll certainly want to partner with them, but on top of that, we might launch our first clinic in, say, the first floor of the Wing and be a primary amenity for Wing employees. Does that answer, or Wing members? Does that answer the question?
Who asked that question? Yeah, does that answer your question? Somewhat. Okay.
You're missing the women who have full-time employment.
You're missing the women who have full-time employment.
We're finding ways to work around this. So the idea is maybe that we wouldn't only be offered to the Wing employees, the Wing members, but instead would be offered to everyone, just exist in the first floor of a Wing location in, say, Soho, New York. But it'd be a little more difficult to merge with a gym that is co-ed and only offer a service to a smaller, non-majority percentage of its members.
Thank you. That just gave me a great idea. For audience members, when your question is on stage, if you could actually stand up, that way we can have the audience, we can have the contestant really answer you. And if you don't feel like your question is responded to, you can maybe give some feedback. Make it even more interactive. Okay. Can I ask you that? Okay, so our next team is a team of 4. We have first Annie Hart, who was a Juilliard student and is now a psychiatry resident at Mount Sinai. She pretty much was destined to go into psychiatry because she was born on the day of her dad's psychiatry final, which he failed because he did not show up to the exam. I would guess that the psychoanalyst at this conference would have a lot of fun unpacking that one. Next, we have Jordan Feingold, who is a medical student at Mount Sinai and also has a master's in positive psychology. She was president of her class all the way from 5th grade until 12th grade and continues to be active in student government. I think I'm very excited to see what her presidential campaign would look like, given that she literally has a degree in happiness. And look at that smile. I mean, come on, it's gonna be great. Isabel Rosenthal is a psychiatry resident at Mount Sinai and a scholar at the venture fund Player Capital Partners. Now, I procrastinate a lot, but Isabel's parents may actually be even better. They didn't know what they wanted to name her, and they figured that they would actually just delay making that decision. So they gave her 6 names. So her actual name is Adrian Isabel Yasmin Tamsin Fallon Rosenthal. Elementary school must have been really fun. Isabel is the co-author of a piece many of you have likely read on the future of behavioral health technology in Moby Health News. And finally, we have Murad Khan, who's a psychiatry resident at Yale, who once went on a date with a reality TV show contestant, who he also met on a dating app. And unlike our first finalist, James, he did not ask for funding, which likely is why he got the offer for a second date. However, he didn't get to go on that second date because of how busy he was with medical school. And that is why you'll see this is actually an inspiration for the company that you're going to hear about today. Take it away, guys.
We are MedImmunity. I'm Dr. Murad Khan, and I'm an incoming psychiatry resident.
I'm Jordan Feingold, a medical student.
I'm Dr. Annie Hart, a psychiatry resident.
And I'm Dr. Isabel Rosenthal, an incoming psychiatry resident.
We are offering a digital solution to help physicians thrive.
Because we believe that community solves burnout.
We are so excited to share our pitch with you today.
Thank you so much, APA.
Thank you so much. We are so honored and humbled to be here. We are MedImmunity, a digital platform for fighting burnout and promoting clinician thriving. So you heard about our team. Dr. Hart is our clinical expert. Dr. Rosenthal is our CEO. She has her MBA and she has vast experience with digital health platforms. Dr. Khan is our data analyst, as well as he has a background in community organizing, and I have a master's degree in applied positive psychology. Throughout my master's, I focused exclusively on the topic of clinician burnout, which has reached epidemic levels in this country and beyond. And this problem starts as early as medical training, and it doesn't remit as we move through. So I became very comfortable talking about these statistics that you see behind me. Excuse me. What I couldn't have possibly imagined is that on my 3rd day of medical school at Mount Sinai in 2016, we would lose one of our own students to suicide when a 4th year jumped out of her 8th floor window of our dorm complex. So this took everything that I knew on the paper and brought it into real life. And it left our community grieving and thinking, what can we do about this? And how did this happen here? So as students, we found it vitally important to support each other. And out of this desire to support each other grew a program called Peers, which is a longitudinal resilience and well-being curriculum that is facilitated by clinical social workers and has thus far in the past 2 years been delivered to over 600 students. The effects of our program have been fairly profound. So just one of the metrics we're taking, the Connor-Davidson Resilience Scale, at baseline showed us that third-year medical students specifically, as they go on to their clinical years, become very isolated and thus less resilient and have higher levels of burnout and lower well-being. With only 1 year of our program, we found that third years were buffered against some of that downward trajectory that naturally happens by this element of support. We think this is very significant and that students beyond our own community deserve this type of intervention, which is why we're creating MedImmunity, a digital solution. Isabel.
Great, thank you so much, Jordan. So we want to talk about the digital platform and what it has to offer. So our digital platform has 3 main concepts. It's focused around this idea of structured facilitated support groups run by a clinical social worker. 2, there's a chat space for students to connect across the country after they've met in one of these facilitated support groups. 3, there's a learn space where we take curriculum based on what we've learned in the Peers program and develop this digitally based on concepts from positive psychology, CBT, and also mindfulness. So I want to walk you through our product and sort of what it's like from the student experience. So just 2 years ago, I was a medical student on my surgery rotation. This is me. I am now have access to this app. It's a Saturday. I want to connect with medical students across the country. I open up the app. I join a group. There are 2 students who are also on their surgery rotation. One lives in Dallas, one lives in New Orleans. We're all surviving on Cheetos and Diet Dr. Pepper. And so we meet in this group. And then during the week, we talk in the chat space about our experiences on our surgery clerkships and use this as a place to connect. Additionally, during that same week, I'm tired from standing in the OR for long days. I go into the bathroom, as many medical students like to take a break, and I open the app and I do a quick mindfulness module. So now I want to talk about our business model. So as you can see, this is a concept that we're all super passionate about. This is not a for-profit venture. This is a not-for-profit venture. And we think that we can make it feasible from revenue from 2 sources. 1, from grant funding, and 2, a subscription-based model from academic institutions across the country. You might ask yourself, are academic institutions willing to pay for this? We think yes. Across the country, medical schools, hospitals are hiring chief wellness officers. Wellness curriculum is being integrated into both medical school and residency training. Thank you. And it's really, we think academic institutions are asking themselves, how do we do this? Not whether or not to do this. And we think we bring the how. So I just want to go over again why we think our platform is worthwhile. First of all, this is us. This platform is for us. It's for our friends. It's for our peers who have gone through clinical training. We also think there are vast areas of growth, including nursing students, social work students, nurse practitioners. The list goes on. Thank you.
I'll go. Great presentation. We deal with a lot of health systems, and physician burnout is in the top 3 every time that we go in and talk about behavioral health. Great passion, a great team. I mean, you guys are super smart, and I think the combination is really impressive. A couple observations. Unfortunately, a lot of failed social behavioral health companies in this space. One Health, Big White Wall, there's a number that have raised a ton of money and struggled. And so I think there's a lot to learn from those organizations, and you're nodding, so it sounds like you've kind of looked at those. I guess the point/question is, as we've looked at social and community, is you really have to have a very vibrant, rich, deep sub-community. I mean, just thousands and thousands and thousands of members to really drive retention. And so 600 is a great start, but how do you drive that up to get to that point where you think you can really offer a platform that will be engaging?
So I think, to answer your question, it's sort of twofold. One, we really hope to engage institutions in order to get buy-in. And then I think the product itself we've really thought about from the perspective of the user in order to meet their needs as specifically as possible. So I think, first of all, the social aspect of it is unique in that we're creating these communities. People are connecting from across the country over shared experiences. And additionally, I think we've designed it in a way that it's very, very accessible for students to get the in order to access the materials. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you may want to think about just giving it away for free for some period of time, just to drive up the usage base, because I think that's going to be impressive to a medical organization when you go in and say, I've got thousands. Because I think the other concern is the anonymity. If you've got a very small number,
Yeah.
I think that will turn people off.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's great about sort of what we've been doing in person is that you're in groups of people you know, and so we think a benefit of this is you're meeting people from across the country that you probably will never see again except in these groups, and I think that just gives people more freedom to sort of talk about what's really going on, because it's just a totally different community than what you're getting in your medical school.
Yeah, as a parent of a third-year medical student, I'm quite fascinated by this. And what kind? Can you talk about the testing you've done in little pilots, or you're almost a user group yourselves, but how do you get outside your own experiences, and what little tests have you done to get you to this point?
Thank you so much for that question. So I worked on analyzing the data that we collected for this particular project, and in the pitch we focused on the Connor-Davidson resilience scale, which is a way to measure how much folks are able to respond to the stresses of any challenge in this situation, the challenges of medical school, and that's where Jordan alluded to the 10.55% increase when we usually see a big drop-off, particularly in third year, which is when students are exposed to the stresses of board exams as well as their clinical responsibilities. We also measured the burnout based off of the Maslow burnout scale, which is another validated scale, and that basically replicated what we've seen nationally. The more that students are exposed to medical school, the more burnt out they get throughout the course of their career. And then finally, we also measured the Perma Profiler, which is based off of positive psychology, which we basically use the well-being metric of it, and that also is replicated in what we see nationally. That well-being tends to decrease the more that students are in medical school, which is why we believe that this product is able to provide the possibility of boosting resilience while we wait for structural changes so that those stressors are alleviated.
So just a quick question, because we're almost out of time, but have you thought about incorporating educational materials in terms of wellness, health, all of those kinds of things in addition to the social part of it?
I think that's a really important point, because our app, we're not providing psychotherapy for students. This is really about support groups, but we do have a help button that has, we envision partnering with academic institutions to find their local resources for students, so that if that they can sort of escalate for need if they need to find mental health care locally.
I just wanted to emphasize the Learn feature is a primary feature of this program.
Do you have a question? Okay, yeah. Well, first of all, I think peer groups and support groups are a significant way to address our mental health. So I think you're on the right track. I would probably echo what Scott said. There's a lot that have been tried, a lot have failed, mainly due to the business model. It's who's going to pay for it. And you've had in your slide that you would have the universities pay for it. It sounds like you have a number of case studies. Have you approached them, and based on those case studies of resilience, raising resilience, how much are they willing to pay?
Yeah, so I think that's sort of the next model is really going to institutions and figuring out what that number is from our own experience. I mean, we really feel like the want is there. This has been a problem that's been ignored by the medical community for a long time, and we finally feel like it's kind of at the forefront of public consciousness, and that institutions are really putting money into that, which we can see again by hiring chief wellness officers, by developing these wellness curriculums and starting to implement structural change. So we think this is a nice tool to augment what we already see is happening. But for that exact figure, we don't know yet.
Thank you. Let's get to audience questions. How are you managing privacy issues for med students?
So privacy is actually a big issue, not just in an online way, but actually in person. Students at our own institution are very concerned about physically going to providers in the Mount Sinai system who they're worried about grading them. And so the current brick and mortar student health model involves seeing therapists at your own institution. So like we said, this is not therapy, this is support groups, and it's not psychotherapy. So we're not concerned about making it necessarily HIPAA compliant for these students. These students can use whatever username they develop. They can choose to use their own identity. They can choose to use another name or pseudonym that they choose. But that will be worked out. We see this with the individual institutions that are using our platform to decide how their students are going to be managed.
Next question. Are you working with educational institutions, legislators, and hospitals to address the larger issue of supply and demand for young doctors?
Yeah, so this is a really great question. Members of our team work with the National Academy of Medicine's collaborative on establishing clinician well-being and resilience, including myself. And this is a huge conversation that we're having at the national level. So I think, that's the primary organization we are working closely with. I think we need to continue working at the governmental level for this to get more funding for residency spots, because medicine should be an ideal profession, and for many reasons we are burning out before even getting into our practices and to leaving our residencies. So this is a huge problem, and we are tackling it at the national level, and we're part of that conversation.
I'm going to ask, how are you working with them, and what are the ideas that are going on at that level?
Yeah, so this is really vast. There's a 4-year working group happening at the National Academy where we're looking at different elements from research and understanding health and well-being beyond just the absence of disease. How do we structure conversations around clinician well-being? Is it about tackling problems, or is it about taking what we call an appreciative inquiry approach, which is looking at best practices and trying to build on those? So there's so much more going on. We have a public meeting, or it's not public, but there are some public videos that will be happening in 2 weeks in Chicago through the National Academy of Medicine at the ACGME headquarters, which is the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education. So a lot of work is going into this, and it's exciting to be at the table for that happening.
Wonderful. Next. Okay.
All right.
Wonderful. Thank you guys. And next we have Lindsey Leave. Lindsey Leave is the founder of HappyGo, owner of a real estate investment company, and partner of the largest landscape design firm in East Tennessee. She's a huge animal lover who has a chicken named Chicken Hawk, who has a crooked beak and missing toe, but a lot of love. When she was in college, she went through a cowgirl phase where she spent her weekends horse barrel racing at rodeos and evenings line dancing at honky tonks. The story we have yet to hear is the origin of Lindsey's Twitter handle, which is @StinkyLeave, which you may tweet at with the hashtag MHIC. Lindsey.
Hi, I'm Lindsey. I'm the founder of HappyGo. HappyGo is a psychological priming platform. My background is in actually economics and business. I'm a serial entrepreneur. My first business I started right after grad school, and I started flipping houses, kind of like HGTV style, where we'd go in and buy a fixer-upper, fix it up, and then flip it. From there, stemmed a couple other businesses, and I ended up selling one, and that's when I started delving into social psychology and the research. I watched how screens was influencing my kids and my family, and I came up with HapEgo, the psychological priming platform, which enhances attitudes and behaviors by seamlessly integrating with our screens. Psychological priming has been proven to help with all kinds of things. It can help enhance weight loss, it can increase your financial stability, it can also help with neurological disorders or brain injuries. It's been researched across so many disciplines, it's amazing that there's not a tool like this already out there. I'm looking forward to connecting with the psychiatric community to make this app even better.
Thank you, I'm Lindsey. I'm the founder of HapEgo. HapEgo is a psychological priming platform that enhances healthy behaviors and healthy attitudes by activating unconscious motivations. As a mom, I'm concerned about the unseen mental impact screen time is having on my children. I worry about the commercials, I worry about social media, not to mention the cyberbullying, misogynistic posts, religious hates, and all of the scary headlines. So the problem is really threefold. First of all, bad habits are financially, physically, and mentally expensive. Second, change takes time, effort, and sometimes medication. And last, media influences our subconscious mind, politicians and marketing companies, and oftentimes with unhealthy consequences. All right, the solution is HapEgo. HapEgo is a software designed to seamlessly integrate priming onto electronic screens without interrupting the normal use. If you aren't familiar with priming, it's the intentional use of stimuli to it's the intentional use of stimuli to affect future behaviors and attitudes. It's been reported that the most expensive ad ever to run on TV was a 250-second millisecond flash that ran right before the evening news on a Seattle station. Right now, social media has micro ads running during their videos. Sephora and also Louis Vuitton are running these. And politicians. One of my advisors actually works for politicians and for the FBI. What people don't know is that priming has also been proven to help with a lot of other things, with healthy behaviors. It helps ease depression, can help ease stress relief, it can help with aiding your diet, can help with reducing anxiety and neurological disorders, brain injuries. The market's huge. Not only does it help with all the things that I just mentioned, but it also helps with increasing company cultures and improving them. It helps improve customer service ratings, and finally it can reduce implicit biases, which is a pretty big thing right now. How it works. So priming, a user will download a goal or select a goal, and a stimuli will fill the screen for less than 1 second many times per day. This changes our immediate actions. So researchers say that it impacts our it has an immediate implicit result, and that means that it changes our unconscious attitudes and behaviors immediately. But from our in-app surveys, we have found that our users are realizing a cognitive result within 4 days. They're prompted on their phone every day around the same time with a survey that says, compared to a typical day, today I feel better, worse, much better, or I ate better, I ate less better. It's a 5-point scale. Like our competition, we offer several goal packs that are pre-designed to hit the most, the top goals. So things like health, body, mind, spirituality, money, and relationships. All of this is being done with the underlying understanding that the more we're exposed to different cultures living life and experiencing the same struggles and the same successes that we experience on a day-to-day basis, the walls that separate us naturally break down. Where are we? We launched our MVP, or minimum viable product, on the Google Play Store last September. We've had over 18,000 downloads, 5,000 daily active users, and a 69% retention rate, which puts us in the top 30% of all health and fitness apps on the Google Play Store. We have several revenue streams, like similar to Headspace or Calm. You'll get some stuff for free, but a subscription unlocks the rest. We also have Happy Ego for Business. So far, our early adopters have been self-improvement focused millennials, but we plan to launch vertically into employee improvement, healthcare, and mental health, and also the autism market within year 2. We've got a lot of fun features in the works.
I'll go. I love priming. I mean, I have not had a lot of exposure to it, but I love the concept. I'll tell you a couple things you already know. This is an incredibly noisy space. You mentioned the competition. Between Headspace and Calm, they've raised about $200 million, most of that going to consumer acquisition. And so, as you've kind of modeled out, again, the economic model on your direct-to-consumer model, what's the lifetime revenue versus the kind of acquisition costs, and do you think you can make money? Because most of those organizations are really starting to shift out of direct-to-consumer and into the B2B2C market because the acquisition costs aren't covering the lifetime value. So how are you wrestling with that one?
Now it's on. Thank you. That's a great question. And it's something that we are aware of. I think our acquisition cost so far has been about $13 per user. That's per paying subscriber. But I think that you're right on. With the business-to-business market, it's going to be huge. That's some of my advisors are already working with Procter & Gamble. They're social researchers, and they're being paid a lot of money to go in and implement these cues around offices to help increase company cultures, to increase teamwork, to help sales. So it's already a practice that's being there. We just make it seamless by incorporating them on screens.
Can I ask a question? Great presentation around autism. So
Yes.
how does priming work in autism?
Thank you. That's awesome. I've actually met with one of my mentors last night who works here locally, and she's a behavioral specialist with the schools. And right now they actually have folks, behavioral specialists, who will ride on the buses with autistic children and prime them for changes. So they do it with pictures. So they'll have it, whatever caregivers they're dropping them off to, they're showing them pictures to help them prepare. So it's already something that behavioral specialists are using in the autism market to help prepare for new schools, new therapists, and that's how I imagine this will be.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I have a similar question. With the resources that you have, lots of opportunities to go many directions. Like, really, where are you focusing? Like, who's the most appropriate end user to start with? Yeah, answer that first.
Yeah, that's been my biggest challenge. Every new advisor that I talk to has a direction they want me to go. They're like, oh man, you got to white label this with Weight Watchers, or you've got to go over here to Procter & Gamble, or you've got to go, So focusing has been a really hard thing for me because there's so many opportunities. But I keep going back to my mission, which is to increase the connectivity between all races and all socioeconomic realms. And when I look to that, I think the direct-to-consumer market's going to be the easiest for getting us out there, and then from there we'll expand.
Can I just say one thing as an entrepreneur? Every time you bring on a new advisor, they're going to give you a different direction. And so do your economics, pick your market, and focus. And stop hiring lots of advisors.
Yes.
My humble opinion.
Thank you. That's a good one.
Our next finalist is Ganesh Alangavan, a physician whose favorite memory from medical school at Duke was getting to play pickup games with Duke's basketball team. Now, as many of you know, it requires a lot of commitment to get through medical training. And this was a skill that Ganesh got to experience from a really young age, and he really trained himself for what it was going to take for, like the stamina of getting through medical school. So how did he do this? He did this by committing to getting a dog. It took him 8 years to get a dog. His family told him that he needed to go up the evolutionary ladder by starting with a fish, and then amphibians, a salamander, then reptiles, a lizard, and then a rabbit, which is one step above a rodent, and then finally he got to his dog, Shadow, who is a black Labrador. So dog, and then medical school, pretty much equal levels of commitment. Yeah, a couple things in between, yeah. So here we go, Ganesh.
Hello, my name is Ganesh Alangavan, and I'm a physician and co-founder of a company called Calidus Health. We specialize in data capture, visualization, and analytics in the behavioral health space. We're really excited to be part of the APA Innovation Lab this year. We initially rolled out a module for survey, questionnaire, and data capture capabilities for practice clients of ours currently. Many of those practices, including general practices and psychiatry practices, started using our base version for more complex needs in the psychiatric space where data capture, visualization, analytics gets very complicated. So just earlier this year, we had rolled out a specialized behavioral health version of this capability, and this proved popular with clients. In fact, one of our psychiatry clients encouraged us to submit to the APA Innovation Lab, and that's actually how we ended up in the Innovation Lab this year. So we're really excited to be part of the Innovation Lab this year. With that positive reception and traction that we're getting from our clients, we look forward to connect with APA thought and innovation leaders and getting that help in figuring out what the big picture looks like. We're a solution that is proven valuable to our clients in the behavioral health space, can be scaled up, where the roadmap goes and how we can better serve the mental health community and also get the word out about our platform. And I think that's what we're trying to accomplish with our Innovation Lab participation this year and make a lot of new friends and potentially add to our team as well.
Pleasure being here. So my name is Ganesh, and I'm the founder of Calidus Health. Quick background about myself, I did a neurosurgery residency, but have a background in computer science from UW-Madison prior to med school. And Calidus Health, to go back just one slide, we're a cloud-based solution that simplifies behavioral health data capture, visualization, and analytics. So really quick, our client EMRs that we cover, the full range from some of the largest and the smallest. We cover about 20 plus specialties, general practice, peds, internal medicine, psychiatry. And what we developed in one of our platforms is a complex survey questionnaire capability last year that we rolled out. Very well received, and what happened was a lot of our groups in primary peds, medicine, and psychiatry started using this for way beyond just the first intentions that we had to start doing some of these complex behavioral health things that they were oftentimes doing on paper and pencil, hard to score, data wasn't getting there, trending this stuff was really impossible. So they came to us to work on fleshing out a new version of our platform, and our unique background in clinical and technical allowed us to really work with them and develop that new platform. So some of the challenges psychiatry and behavioral health are, it's a unique specialty. There's a heavy reliance on a different type of data. So questionnaires, tests, scales, data gathered from patients. It's not labs, it's not radiology studies. There's a lot of complexity, distribution, capture, scoring, and then data tracking outcomes and collaborative care are all challenges here. And in our system, version 2.0, what we did is you can make questions in a question bank. Out of those questions, you can create your modules or your skills, all highly customizable to exactly what a practice needs to focus on. Then you can mix and match those scales and those questions. With those scales, you can actually specify complex first-degree scoring rules that we'll take care of in the background. And once you do that, distribution is very simple. It's email, it's text distribution to the patients. It's not the portal-based interaction, it's purely transactional. So our success rate's very high with people being able to do this on multiple devices, start and stop. We track these sessions in real time with no lost work. And here's what it looks like on the tracking side. You can see who's filled out what, who's attempted what. Administrators can resend with one click if there's paperwork that's outstanding. So it's that visualization that's really key for us. And the benefit of all this is now in the background, we're doing all that labeling with the patient data, the appointment date, the completion date, the survey or questionnaire that they took. We're doing all that auto scoring in the background itself, so no more pencil and paper, and now you've got both the raw data and the final data to utilize. And then additionally, we are built in to give you that longitudinal view of patient care notes. There's no more trying to pick through 8 different EMR notes, looking at PHQ-9 scores from 3 months ago. You can trend this out, and it's all built in, very easy to use. If you have a particular point you want to focus in, you can actually drill down on specific data points, and you can subtract and expand the view very easily. So very intuitive, very physician-friendly, provider-friendly. Additionally, some people prefer tabular views, so we have multiple different ways for providers to use the data and view it based on their practice style, so it's just very simple for people to pick up and start to use right away. And lastly, a lot of times at the end of clinical visits, you'll have judgment about what is the next step for this patient. You want to set up recurring events. What's the focus area? In our system, you can actually create recurring events based on surveys or questionnaires from your tool set, and we take care of everything with the distribution and tracking. No more front office forgetting to send stuff out or having a stack of papers to the patient when they show up. So why are we different? We're obviously HIPAA secure. We host completely with clear data. You get to customize all your email and text invite content to maintain patient privacy. There's a lot of customization flexibility, and we fit that range of complex client needs that EMR solutions and other third-party solutions can't. We're totally workflow-based and intuitive, and our distribution, tracking, and data capture is really superior to what clients have been using before this. And that transactional nature is very key, not forcing people to go to the portal. Even with high portal sign-up rates, the compliance rate for finishing this complex paperwork before coming to the office is pretty low. And additionally, our initial success was with practice groups and large clinics, but our wide spectrum of potential users is quite big. We're in early stage discussions with some EMR vendors for integration. We're a standard SaaS model. And lastly, the impact we can have is to automate manual processes, decrease waste of provider time, and improve provider time to patient and decision making versus data.
Can I ask a question? Thanks for that presentation. So right now you don't have read capabilities on top of EHRs, or you do?
Read capability.
Yeah, so are you connected to the EHR at this moment?
What we do is we push data back right now. The way our system works is, because of the complexity, we can't just pull, let's say, a list of appointments for a day. The providers want to send specific questionnaires to specific patients, so the EMR doesn't have an appointment code that correlates with it. So right now, our clients are using it on a little bit more of a manual basis to pull certain lists of who they want certain surveys sent to based on clinical discretion. So we have the ability to push-pull. We do that with Epic. The problem is that those reports or that data coming out of the EMR doesn't have that specificity that fits the client workflow need.
And I didn't hear the business model.
Business models are pretty standard SaaS model, so subscription monthly plus a usage fee. But we're also in talks with a couple of small to mid-size EMRs for direct integration.
So the scales are all validated?
It's custom content created by the practices, so they are creating validated scales. We haven't dealt with the issue of proprietary content that's licensed. I think because we're new to this space, we'll be dealing with that on a case-by-case basis. We don't want to go and overthink it for the providers. We want to be the platform that they get to make what they want, and then we'll work with them to figure out things like that licensed content, etc.
Okay, and just the other question, who owns the data?
Client always owns the data on our platform, period.
Is this a little bit like SurveyMonkey for the healthcare industry?
So SurveyMonkey is a relatively unsophisticated tool, I would say, when you're looking at this. The ability for us to create these scales and intersperse them with the different questions and extract data over time with these built-in views are really what sets us apart, where one of our large clients they had a bad experience with the previous survey platform. One of the big name brands actually that does the hospital ratings and things, was a large practice group. And they found switching over to us actually was way more efficient and something much more intuitive for them to use. And that complexity and workflow is something that we understand that a lot of these platforms don't understand, because I'm a clinician. So,
what feedback have you gotten recently that has helped you bring your offering to a better level?
Yeah, so we are new with that behavioral health version. One of our clients is actually in the audience today, a psychiatrist who's been very instrumental in a lot of great feedback. But also, I think we're hearing feedback about having more like pre-made content in the platform for consumption. So things like that are the feedback that we're working on. Some of the workflow ideas of like, how do I simplify distribution? We talked about pulling data out of Epic or the EMR. We're trying to figure out how can we automate that, because the mapping doesn't exist right now of the different questionnaires you want to focus in on for different patients. The appointment code doesn't capture that. So that's the sort of stuff that we hear from clients that we are working on, how to do that mapping and allow that complexity to be fully exploited by the client.
So there are a few EHR vendors that are already doing something similar or interested in getting into the space. What's going to keep you from staying ahead of that?
Good question. So I would say actually 30% of our client base is Epic right now, just to quote one. They're actually one of our hungriest sets of users for this platform, because right now what's happening is they're sending patients to the portal to fill out this sort of static stuff. Well, their patient portal sign-up rate is something like 60%, very successful, very well-run group. But that goes down to about 10% in compliance when you force the patient to come to the portal to do this stuff before the visit. This is purely transactional, and our data tracking, capture, visualization is something they can't do in Epic. So our edge is really staying on top of that workflow, simplifying the complexity, and really understanding how that data has to be used, versus you have to be forced to come and deal with it in a certain context because a non-clinician is telling you to do this.
I think the reason why I asked the question about the data is the ability to use that data from a predictive analytics perspective downstream is huge. And data is currency, and the ability to be able to leverage that data is significant in my mind.
Yeah, and there's an integration network that's actually looking at us exactly for that purpose, so right on target.
Thank you, judges. And now for audience questions. And just a reminder to the audience, and especially those of you who are new, we have a whole audience submission questions process. So if you go to sync.freeman.com/MHIZ, and for those of you who are at the tables, there's a page of the tables with that URL on there. You can submit questions, and after the judges have asked questions, you can pose your questions to the finalists. So please definitely submit questions. So let's get to the first audience question. What makes this focus on psychiatric care? Can this be applied to all healthcare?
So good question. Actually, I'll reverse the question. We started off with applying to all healthcare, and that's where our primary care client base and our psychiatric client base started using this for replacing that pencil, paper, throwing sheets at the patient, barely showing up on time in the office, which really was a workflow issue for them. So it started there, and then with that input from those clients, that's where we moved into that psychiatry-specific version.
Who asked that question? Do you want to give a follow-up? Is there a follow-up?
I just got that first part. I wasn't able to hear all of it, sorry. In terms of the psychiatric capabilities, well, the entire service, absolutely. So we have psychiatrists that'll use it for their general intake forms, as far as just, medication lists, etc. But then they'll also use the special psychiatry version. I'm unclear as to, are you saying would general practices be able to use the psychiatry version of this? Absolutely, right, because they do a lot of psychiatry work in peds, especially in internal medicine, etc. So absolutely.
And that's great because we know that, in fact, primary care doctors see psychiatric issues even more than we do as psychiatrists. So it's really important for others to be able to do that as well. Next question. Tell us more about your utilization and positioning in the market. How many people have used the tool, et cetera?
Yeah, so I'll start with how many people use the tool. Right now we cover about 400 plus providers across about 14 to 15 states at the moment. So we're using the base tool really across our whole client base, the general version. The more specific version, I would say, their hands. So.
Fantastic, thank you. Let me give it to the next one. Thank you. Next we have Katrina Mack. Katrina is the founder and CEO of UROC, which helps kids build emotional resilience. Now, it's not a surprise that Katrina is committing her life to building this company, because emotional resiliency has been a part of her life from the very beginning. Her father passed away when she was 6 months old, and she grew up as the only child for her mother. She witnessed her mother stand up to social pressure of being the only single mother around, and this taught her a lot of resilience and independence. This upbringing also gave Katrina a great talent for party planning. Everything from her own high school prom to the party she plans today, including local moms' knitting circles and her son's picnics. Hopefully we can get her to plan a party for us one of these days. Yes, this is Katrina, everyone.
Hi, I'm Katrina Mack, and I'm CEO and founder of UROC. We're the creator of KBRO, the Emotional Resiliency app for adolescents, and also the companion app for parents called the Parent Subscription that lets parents know how their kids are doing, especially if they're not doing okay. We're excited to be here and show off the tools that we provide to adolescents to help build their emotional self-care and resiliency capabilities by playing the Am I OK game, sharing things in the anonymous sharing site, My Tribe, as well as looking up information about typical adolescent issues, sharing things to practice speaking up, and gratitude practice in What's Up. We have developed our own assessment tool that takes advantage of all the data that we're capturing from kids as they play KBRO, and also as they name their emotions when they play the Am I OK index game. We think this has given us a great visibility into how kids are really doing, especially their emotional well-being. And we're eager to partner with a healthcare provider to help us prove the efficacy not only of our interventions, but also of our ability to accurately assess the emotional well-being of adolescents using the game. Hi everyone. I'm the CEO and founder of UROC, or another way to be said, You Are Okay. And that really is our mission, is to make sure that adolescents are okay in a time that is very challenging for them. As a mom, I've had to deal with that firsthand. And as I looked at what worked for my son, I gamified that and put it into the app KBRO. None of this is a surprise. We're seeing all the headlines. We're seeing how challenged kids are. And the Pew Research has recently pointed out that 70% of teens see anxiety as a depression for a real issue. And they're trying to understand it for themselves by going to Dr. Google. And they're not going to their parents because they're really uncomfortable doing that. And what we see in our app is they don't feel safe actually telling their parents just how much they're struggling. So we have developed a solution that's designed to build emotional self-care skills to help kids stay emotionally healthy and more resilient, and hopefully prevent the onset of any of those issues of anxiety or depression, or worse, suicidality. We are prevention focused, based on evidence-based practices. I'm actually losing a lot of slides here, so let me get back. Okay, that didn't rotate. Anyway, I was going to show you several other slides from the app, but we have, I'm just going to quickly say that we have something called Deal With It, which is curated content that helps kids understand how to deal with something in their life, like anxiety or depression, or just how to get a date. We also have something called Speak Up, which helps kids practice how to self-advocate. They can share it with the anonymous My Tribe site within the app to get support on whether it's helpful or hurtful or not. And then lastly, we have a gratitude practice at the end. So we have very cautiously advertised this product via social media marketing and advertising. Our cost is about a quarter of what it is to get a download for a game. And thus far, we've acquired over 3,000 users. From this sample of users, we've gotten very positive qualitative feedback from the point of view of one unsolicited comment saying that every middle schooler and high schooler should be using this app. But what we've also learned is that it is attractive to kids aged 14 to 16. That's about 60% of our user base. And then the remaining 40% is almost evenly divided between 11 to 13 and 17 to 19. Our advertising has been specifically targeted thus far at 13 to 18-year-olds. And we have about 2/3 girls, a quarter boys, and the remainder identify as other. I'll point out that the folks who identify as other are struggling the hardest with being recognized with their family for what the differences they're discovering. So with the amount of data that we've been able to collect so far, we have learned that this group of children who are not diagnosed, mind you, but are sometimes searching on terms like anxiety and depression, somewhere around 15 to 20% of the time. What we are able to see is after about 10 uses that on our index, called the MIOK index score, that we can see that they spiral up. But at the same time, we can also see those for whom the interventions within the app are actually not working and find those kids spiraling down who need to have a higher level of care and a more engaged intervention from a professional. K-Bro is really for everyone. So we're looking at the entire population of kids from 9 to 17. We expect to go younger with time. And some of these kids are getting diagnosed. I think the numbers are right around 1 in 5 are diagnosed with a mental health issue. And then there's the whole rest of the population that we really don't know about yet. So our goal is to really make sure that they don't need to be diagnosed with anxiety or depression or suicidality and be treated for that, but to actually really become effective at managing their own emotional well-being through the tools that are within the app. For us right now, we are pursuing a Okay.
So when they're asking questions as well, just pay attention.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you.
So I saw that you had like 3,300 kids who had downloaded. That was kids, I take it, children who had downloaded. Yes. So what's the stickiness? So are they using it for months, weeks, days? You know, the big challenge today is there's so many out there. And what's that stickiness? What are you seeing? Are they?
The hook is that there's actually a platformer game that they can come back and play, and because it's a smartphone, you know, they're not going to play it for any extended length of time. It's not like Call of Duty, but it's something to kill the time on their phone. The hook, that's the hook. What keeps them to stay actually is the anonymous peer support in My Tribe.
So I love this age group, 9 to 17, because I have 4 boys, but 3 are in this group, and sort of piggybacking on your question, you know, they'll jump on Fortnite. That's the hook, and they will stay on that. So when you say the hook, what do you mean? Like, what kind of game is it? And then the other is, I think it's really, really important to get the parent or community or school involved. How do you get them involved to keep these kids on track to maybe even download this game? So first question is, what is the hook? What's the game for these kids? And then second, how do you get the community involved?
So there are different goals for different games. It's one experience to play Call of Duty or Fortnite. It's another experience to play Agario. There's another experience of what you do on your phone versus what you do on a console or your computer. So we're just trying to be fun on a smartphone, and we do that. In terms of parent engagement, we do have a parent subscription. However, we're more concerned about taking care of the kids than the parents right now. So the parents have to be opted in by the kids in order to get access to the information, and then they would get an update on how their child is doing. We keep all of the very personal information that the kids share private, but we share their scores and we share categories of issues, school, family life, social life, whatever, for the parent to focus in on. And we give them alerts if we are really worried about suicidality. We would very much like to be in schools. We think this is part of the SEL program, and that's one of our marketing strategies.
I love what you're doing. It speaks both to me personally and professionally. I think a couple comments that I would jump on. I mean, there is a crowded space here, but no one has done it well. No one has broke through, and if there's ever an age group that will respond to technology, obviously it's here. So I think the opportunity is tremendous. I think the challenge is you're competing against Instagram and Fortnite. You know, that's the competition, in my opinion, not other apps. But one thought, one suggestion. Have you thought about segregating the adolescents? I have two in that age category. My 12-year-old likes different things than my 16 and 17-year-old, and so have you thought about over time thinking about, you know, subdividing the adolescent, because I think those are different individuals and reacting in different ways. And then the second comment that I would just make, and happy to share some information with you, foundations would love this. And so as you think about funding strategies in the early stages, we've seen a lot of interest from foundations.
Yes. So we do envision that there's a different database for every age group, like elementary school, middle school, and high school. We actually see going into college as well. Do we think the artwork has to change eventually? Yes, it will have to be tailored to the age group. Do the activities change much? Not sure yet. I think the fact that our largest group is really 14 to 16, sort of the onset of puberty and getting through the first year of high school, says a lot about who's using it and why. And if you had other stuff you commented on, I forgot what to...
The foundations, I'd be happy to share some information.
Would love
with
that, thank you.
Can I ask a question? If I'm one of the users and I start to decline and I haven't opted in for my parents, what do you say to me?
We have an alert that pops up that says, we're sorry you're not doing okay, and we think you should be contacting a resource. We actually have a button on the MIOK page that goes straight to the crisis text line, conduit. We're rolling out a chatbot-based technology that will intervene with a more in-depth conversation if there's any expression of suicidality, to get them straight over to existing resources.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I have a few announcements before we get to audience questions. I see that there are a lot of folks who have come in who weren't here at the beginning, so I want to just get a few announcements out there. First of all, tweeting. We would love for you to tweet. The hashtag is MHIZ for Mental Health Innovation Zone. So share your thoughts on what the finalists are saying, what this experience is like, and throughout the next hour or so as we're doing this, please definitely get those out there. Next is for the interaction portion of this session. sync.freeman.com/MHIZ is how you can submit questions. You can also submit comments, and this is a way for you to share feedback and thoughts with the finalists. We will actually be getting all of those together, and so even if your question does not come up on stage, we will be giving it to the finalists. And so even if you have ideas for them or contact information or potential partners that you want to suggest, you can put that in the comment section, and we will make sure that they get that before leaving. So definitely do that. And I think that's all, right? Yeah, okay. So next, let's get to the audience questions. Oh, wait, one more thing. Let's pause the timer, one more thing. Reminder to those of you who are new is that after we have one more presentation, and then we have the interactive workshop portion of this session, where you will get to work directly with the finalist of your choice. Now, you've been hearing the judges ask all these questions and give a lot of feedback, so you will get to actually work with them side by side to incorporate the feedback, and then they're going to be giving a final pitch. And so you can work with them, they'll give a final pitch, and then we will be having an Audience Choice Award where you'll get to vote on the award of your own favorite winner. So for those of you who are new, that's what's going on. Okay, now let's get to the audience questions. Can you tell us more about the business model? Are you doing any trials?
Well, thank you for that question. We really see this as a B2B2C solution, and so our goals are to be in schools or to be part of the continuum of care of healthcare providers, or actually even as a resource to insurance companies who are all challenged with trying to keep costs down for healthcare, especially the cost of mental health care. And that is exactly why we're here today. We're looking for someone to be a trial partner for us. We think our data is pretty strong, but we'd like it to be more compelling with a third-party validation of what we're doing.
Can you tell us about what you're ideally looking for in a partner?
Well, in a perfect world, we'd actually be working with a healthcare provider and seeing how we would fit into their continuum of care. Because anxiety and depression get mentioned somewhere around 15 to 20% of the time, and suicidality around 3% of the time, we'd like to be able to get them to resources who can provide a higher level of care. And we're really just the canary in the mine shaft to see the kids who aren't doing well or benefiting from positive psychology-oriented interventions.
Yeah. So people in the audience who are a part of health systems and clinics would be ideal partners for you.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, next question. This is a great idea. We love it. Emojis also, or emoticons can work in this, guys. How do you plan to beat out Instagram and other loved apps?
So Instagram is our best source of subscribers. That's where we advertise. Instagram is not there telling you if you download K-Bro, you can learn how to be your best self. We have very aspirational marketing messages. The kids are responding to that. They know something's not right. They don't know how to figure it out, and they don't want to go to their parents. They come to K-Bro.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Katrina. So now we have our final contestant. Alex Bharti is coming to us all the way from Australia. So he already wins the award for farthest traveled and most frequent flyer miles accrued. Alex studied the genetics of schizophrenia in college and in Australia, and he was going to start a neuroscience PhD program in London, but instead he diverted and traveled to Peru, where he had his soul cleansed by a shaman. Pretty much the same thing, right? Yeah, pretty much. He switched professional paths and became a winemaker and actually started his own wine label 5 years ago. Since then, he's returned to mental health through the company Tolly, which we'll hear about today, which has allowed him to bring his eclectic talents in multiple fields to mental health. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Nina. Hi, I'm Alex. I'm from Tali in Australia. We're a software developer who creates digital cognitive training programs for children with attention deficits. Our programs assess and train attention during early childhood as an early intervention. The APA annual meeting is a really exciting opportunity for us. We get to be able to show off our technology and show how we can help children attain their best and reach their academic potential and develop properly with social skills. It's going to be a really awesome opportunity to talk to other innovators, psychiatrists, medical professionals, maybe interested in the technology, be able to potentially do some more research, but we're very new to the markets. We're also looking for early adopters as well. So companies and clinics, hospitals, also educators who might be interested in running pilot programs or early clinical research here in the United States. We're really excited to do that. This is amazing to be here. This is incredible. I can't believe that I'm in San Francisco talking at the APA annual meeting. But anyway, I'm losing time. My name's Alex. I'm from Tali, which is a Melbourne-based developer of game-based cognitive training and assessment tools as early interventions for children with attention deficits. So why the hell am I here? Why are any of us here? Attention deficits affect 136 million children globally. This is a big thing, and I probably don't need to tell a whole bunch of psychiatrists that attention deficits related to a whole bunch of neurodevelopmental disorders is a huge issue in this country. Attention is such a key early developing cognitive skill that is absolutely the foundation for all sorts of things that we now rely on in adult life, as well as how we develop as children. Just really simple things, to be able to focus on a task, completing a task, being able to engage with our peers, being able to engage with our family, our teachers. This is all incredibly important for us to develop as human beings. And there's a bit of a gap in the market at the moment for non-invasive, non-drug treatment programs. This is where we come in. So we've developed Tali Train. Tali Train is a game-based digital cognitive training program that specifically targets attention as a cognitive skill. Tali Train is delivered by a tablet, which allows for interactive gameplay, as well as the retrieval of data that gets put into our server, where we're able to interpret that data and give it back to educators, give it back to clinicians, give it back to families, so they can monitor their progression and monitor their progress and compliance throughout the program. Tali Train itself is a 5-week program delivered with 25 sessions consisting of 20 minutes each, consisting of 4 exercises that target core aspects of attention. We haven't plucked these out from any place. Our partner university at Monash in Melbourne, with over 25 years of experience, have been able to tease out very, very unique aspects of attention that have been associated with neurodevelopmental disorders during early childhood. This is not just another brain training app. Currently it's being used in clinics in Australia and in schools. We've got about 25 schools in Australia as well that are using it, and it's being trialled in Asia Pacific, specifically Hong Kong and Singapore in clinics. This is a basic screenshot of the application. So we've seen, this is actually the space theme. We have another surface and sea theme which keeps children involved. But we've got a selection exercise, an inhibition exercise, a focus exercise, and an attentional control exercise. Each of these are very, very specific cognitive skills associated with attention. Monash University has already published 4 studies that support the use of Tali Train, including 2 RCTs. In one of them, we were able to see that selective attention was actually improved after completing the program in a group of children with neurodevelopmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities associated with attention deficits. That improvement was also sustained 3 months later, as well as an improvement in numeracy too. This is really, really exciting for us. New data in another study that's just been submitted for review has actually shown improvements in classroom behaviour, namely a reduction in ADHD symptoms in typically developing children as well, which is super, super exciting for us. That's, as I say, it's just currently under review right now and submitted, and hopefully we get approval soon. Tali Detect is our second solution. Tali Detect is a gamified digital assessment program. So what we're doing here is we're actually trying to assess attention skills, looking for inattention as well as advanced attention skills in children during early childhood. We're trying to capture, just with Tali Train, that peak period in neuroplasticity and giving clinicians, parents, and educators the best opportunity, this knowledge and power to be able to deliver strategies that are appropriate for every child. It's currently still in pilot phase, and it's currently in clinical trials at home. The road ahead, the reason I'm here is we want to start bringing it to the United States. We have a lot to learn about that, so we're looking for partners to help us along the way. We're looking for research partners to help validate and expand upon the research that we've done, that Monash University has already done. We're looking for early adopters, clinics, and educators as well in very specific jurisdictions, so we can give them support. And we also want to start to engage with go-to-market partners as well. Detect will be released later this year, and Tali Train 2.0 Maintain will be released later this year as well. Thank you.
So what's the age group that you're starting with?
Apologies. Early childhood. So between the ages of 3 and 8 is what we're targeting.
And what's the frequency of use? What are you finding?
So it's 25 sessions over the 5-week period. Obviously, their life gets in the way sometimes. So that 5 to 6 week period is kind of optimal for seeing results. But we're talking like 4 to 5 times a week over that period to actually get those gains.
And are they doing this in school or are they doing this at home?
The schools that we've engaged, they're actually doing it in the classroom, and there's a variety of different schools how they're running it. We've got one school in Melbourne that's actually run it with everyone from kindergarten all the way to 3rd grade. We've got another school that's only doing it with 5 kids they've identified with attention issues. So there's a couple of kids with autism, there's a couple of kids with ADHD. So usually they run in sort of groups of 5 or 6. Compliance is the biggest issue. So if the child is compliant, then we're most likely to see gains at the end of the program. And for that reason, that's why we need to have it in the small groups to monitor it. But it can be done at home as well. We are exploring that in specific markets.
Is Tally Detect, is that a screening diagnostic tool? Is that correct?
It's a screening tool. We're being very careful with the language. We don't want to say it's a diagnostic tool for the sheer fact that ADHD is very difficult to diagnose under the age of 7, right? So it's very much a screening tool, but by screening children at that early age, we'll be able to identify children who may be at risk of developing issues further on, or being diagnosed with issues further on.
Right. So I just wanted to clarify with
Sure.
screener and diagnostic, but and thank you for moving in that direction, because there are a lot of there's very few, if any, objective diagnostics and screening out there. So what are the challenges with today's screenings, and how are you improving on that?
Well, it's 2 really. One is it's very, very subjective. They're paper-based, most of them. So it's very, very difficult to be able to do that and execute that and having the right people to do that. With a digital interface and an engaging thing, we can actually have teachers be able to do this. So we don't have to have qualified psychiatrists or psychologists or physicians to be able to implement the screening tool. We can just get it run out in school. The grand dream of our partners at Monash University is have every single kid in primary school do this before they start elementary school. That's the major benefit. It's like anyone can do it, and we can give you data back at the end of that you can take to a professional.
Good luck. We need that.
I may have missed it, but what's the business model?
So we're marketing directly to, well, we've experimented with direct to consumer, but it doesn't look like that's probably going to work in Australia, and it's, by you shaking your head right now, probably not going to work here. But we're marketing directly we're going to do schools. We want to go to schools, and we want to go to healthcare providers. We've got a pricing structure at the moment that's scaled according to the number of licenses that are ordered. So if they buy 5 licenses, it costs about $2,000 Australian. If a whole school buys the licenses, we'll sell it to them for $15,000. I want to say that the caveat there is that's a pricing structure that works for Australia. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work here. So one of the reasons I'm here is to figure that stuff out. We also have the National Disability Insurance Scheme on our side in Australia, so the government actually reimburses participants who actually can't afford to do it.
And so what Dr. Claire Purvis, who has been with the Innovation Lab from the very beginning, was saying was that there are non-financial return on investments that people see, and so that's a part of the case that you might make. So in terms of making the argument, how do you break down the financial and non-financial for these different institutions?
That's a case of, I mean, the simple answer is we still have to build that out. We need to collect data still. And just with healthcare providers, when we're here as well, like we don't understand as a company quite yet what reimbursement means and what that looks like for a product that's a digital therapeutic like ours. Like we don't quite understand that yet. So we're playing with the US market specifically. We're going to play a long game, get that data, get those early adopters, get our allies here and partners to be able to figure this stuff out and do it properly. We're not just going to jump in and launch in 50 schools and have no idea tomorrow. Like that's the really basic answer to that.
Well, thank you. And that is the conclusion of our first round of pitches. Round of applause for all the contestants, finalists. So now we enter the interactive team time portion of the session. We are going to have 1 hour. So what you want to do is you want to go to the numbered table of the finalists that you want to work with over the course of this hour. Let's have the finalists stand at your table, so that folks can identify you. And if it ends up that there are more people around, you can pull up chairs to make it interactive, or just pull up chairs from other tables around, or stools if you need to do that. So what you're going to do over the course of this hour is you are going to review the questions that the judges asked and the feedback, and you're going to figure out how you can improve based on this feedback. At the end of the hour, the finalists are going to return, and they're going to have 2 minutes to give a follow-up pitch where they share with the judges what they learned and how they improved, and that's how we're going to vote on the awards. So please go to the table of the finalists of your choice, and we're going to enter the interactive portion of this session. At 3:45 exactly, we will return to start the next round. And let me make an announcement. I need all of the innovation leaders to please come. Nicola and Mimi will be facilitating the voting of the Impact Award. Where would you like them? Right here. So please come on stage, innovation leaders. You will be voting. You'll have about 5 minutes to vote on the Impact Award, and then you will return to your tables. And judges, enjoy.